Hello.
Hey.
We are on line right now. Well, actually, we're not. We're recording this
I am.
to post this onto the internet.
I'm here.
But we are starting A Cult is Back for another episode. I believe this is episode 116, I think.
That sounds good.
That is... It's very alarming, almost, to look at the number of episodes we've done.
We've talked for a long time.
We really have, and it's just fun. It's very enjoyable. It's a great way to spend the end of the week.
Great way to stay in shape.
Just hanging out, having a good time. We talk about everything we talk about on the show. We do it in a much less structured way, obviously.
Yeah.
But we do exactly what we're doing on this show.
Yeah.
You know, just in our day-to-day lives. It's kind of just how everything rolls around here.
Yeah. And there's usually YouTube on in the background. We're usually eating something at the same time.
Yeah,
But here we just get rid of those two things and just...
It's not
that's
always
the show.
true. So sometimes I do eat while we do this.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking about that episode you were just eating tacos during.
Yeah, no, it's
I
true.
don't even remember which
Sometimes
one
I
that was,
can't
but-
help it. If I'm
Sometimes
in
you
the
need
mood
tacos.
to eat, if I feel like when I eat, that's the time I want to be the most talkative, but I'm not
Which is
because
just
I'm eating.
the worst manners possible, but
Yeah, so
I get it. I do get it.
It works out that way. But this week, we're taking a little bit of a break from our standard schedule because really we've been hitting it hard. We had a couple weeks. What was that? Maybe about 7 weeks ago, we were doing just some off episodes that were a little bit lighter,
A little simpler.
a little slower paced, less work for us to do, and
Yeah,
we've
just
been
torture.
we didn't want to keep that trend up, so we hit it pretty hard, and I really have to say I think Chernobyl burnt me out a lot on research for a
fuck
minute.
nuclear reactors in any sense.
It was. I will tell you this. I enjoyed that episode in that series that we did because I feel it was very informative and interesting.
The first one, you mean? Or just either of them?
Both of them. I liked
Both of them.
I liked
Nice.
both of the episodes, but I will say I was expecting a lot more from Chernobyl. I really was.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the stuff that like people think it's like, oh, a mutated population of people who are hunting down and eating other people. It's like all just like kind of Hollywood stuff.
Yeah, that did not happen.
Like most of the scary stories were just like, oh, you heard a disembodied voice.
Yeah,
And then the
pretty
rest
much.
is just like actual real life human tragedy.
So if you couldn't tell, we're pumping the brakes a little bit this week, and it came at a really good time because we've given you guys a full week. Obviously, there will be spoilers. We're gonna
there's
really discuss the third Conjuring film.
Is it? I thought it was the fourth.
No, this is the third Conjuring film.
All right, well, we're off to a great start.
Because it's 1, then 2, and
You
then it's.
explain to me how counting works.
Well, let me think. I'm now. You got me questioning my own self. But
you know what? I got onto the IMDb page, but I got there through The Conjuring 4. That's what I typed in. So here, let me do it again.
See, now I'm
Let me do it
thinking
again.
in the universe of films of The Conjuring, this is probably film number like 7 or 8, or maybe even farther than that. But I'm pretty sure because the second Conjuring was the Enfield case, and then that was the last actual Conjuring that there was, I believe, until this third one just came out last week.
I don't know, man. I just I typed in The Conjuring 4, and then the first thing that came up is The Conjuring 4 release date. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I have no idea. Either way,
I'm
I'm going back to the IMDb page. Who cares what number it is? But the most recent one to come out is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Devil Made Me Do It.
I'm sticking with my guns on that one. I'll tell you this. We'll kind of give you a breakdown of the movie. Beware, if you want to see it, feel free. Obviously, it's a movie. You'll have a good time.
Stop listening here and go watch it, then come back because it's going to be all spoilers.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil actually almost scene by scene everything that happened in that movie. And to tell you the truth, my personal opinion, it might mean nothing to you. I'm not sure. Maybe it does. I would be grateful if it did. But even if you haven't seen the movie and it's a movie you want to see, going in with spoilers, it might actually make the movie better because all in all, I was thoroughly unimpressed with this movie. I really was. I have not been able to get it out of my mind all week that I was completely let down.
No, yeah. So I thought it was pretty good. I
Okay.
thought it was good, but like I did mention on the Patreon episode that we recorded yesterday. By the way, there's a link below for the Patreon.
There is.
So I like mentioned that you texted me something before I watched it that proved to be just completely true,
Uh-huh.
and that was the fact that it was a Conjuring movie. Ruins it. If it wasn't a Conjuring movie, this would be a great movie.
Yeah, if it
But
was
the fact that it's like cloaked in that reputation, it's so just not what a Conjuring movie should be.
I very much agree. I mean, I said that statement, so of course I would agree with it. But I like the Annabelle movies. That's a good example to me. I'm pretty certain that one, that Curse of La Llorona or whatever.
La Llorona.
I'm pretty certain that one's lumped in the Conjuring universe.
Really?
Um,
That was also a bad movie.
It was, but that's why I like Annabelle's a good one because I've only seen two of them. One of them I absolutely despised and I could not get into, and then that one we watched about the people that lived in that like super nice apartment.
Yeah, and then like Annabelle's like trying to throw their kid out the window and shit.
Yeah, that one was better, and I gave that movie a little bit of credit because it, in a way, it's a standalone project. Like it's in the Conjuring universe, but it's a standalone film. It's its own thing, and to me, the Conjuring. I'm just gonna call it the Conjuring 3. I'm not gonna keep saying the devil made me do it because that's gonna drive me insane.
TDMMDI.
Yeah, no, that's gonna
You
drive
can
me
do
insane.
that. All right, yeah, just 3, whatever.
If that movie was simply in the universe of The Conjuring and a sort of spin-off or a standalone in that universe, I think it would be arguably the best standalone they've had. But because it's a direct, I guess you could say direct sequel to the actual Conjuring films, as opposed to just surviving and existing in that universe.
You mean just in the sense that like the main characters are Ed and Lorraine Warren and that they are like kind of driving the whole thing?
Yeah, it follows the same format as the first two Conjurings, where it's this, they're involved in a case and, things get out of hand and they're around to see it happen all the time and they're just the heroes and they save the day.
Yeah.
That really makes me not appreciate the film because I understand that it was a different director. So James Wan did not direct it. They gave him credit as an executive producer. So I'm assuming that he had some form of say in how the movie went. But it was not his vision of the film. And that was a crucial mistake. Because the way the first two Conjuring movies work is there is sort of this dynamic where there's two stories going on at once. There is the family involved in the haunting, and you kind of see the haunting. You have the horror movie aspect from that angle, and they humanize the people, and they sort of make it into something you can understand, right? That's like the big key in the first two films.
Yeah.
Then the other big step is that Ed and Lorraine Warren, frauds in real life, but for the sake of the movie.
Yeah, go back and listen to our episodes on them because they are bullshit.
Yeah. In the movies, in the first two films, they are the second part, arguably the most important pillar in that film. They are the ones that are called in to help the family and ascertain what is going on with these ghosts or hauntings or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Well, they were always very careful to label things as demons because that's what they specialized in.
Right.
They
Exactly.
were demonic people.
And if you listen to our episode last week where we talk about how the idea of a demonic spirit or a negative entity is sort of just a human perception.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. It's very subjective, and like we don't know how that shit works. It's gonna be
Right.
scary to us. Obviously, new things are scary.
It's hard to put a label on these things, and that's what they specialized in, was labeling. That is what they did.
Yeah,
And this movie plays out very differently. I will say the beginning of the movie takes place in the household where the young boy is possessed, and Arnie, the guy who would later become the driving force behind the movie, he begs the demon to give up on the child and come to him instead.
yeah.
Okay?
That was the Glatzel family. That was the house.
Yeah. And that is straight out of The Exorcist. That is straight out of The Exorcist playbook. That's exactly how that movie went. The beginning was good. It had the elements of creepy. It kind of threw you right into a possession. And it made it even more spooky because it was a kid, you know?
Yeah, dude, and that kid did some fucking acrobatics on that table. That was
Oh,
nuts.
yeah.
That was a cool scene.
No, that was.
Yeah.
That was. And I'm just because I didn't like the movie, I want that to be known now. There are parts of the movie that were really good or I enjoyed. But overall, I would say you'll see why I feel the way I do.
I'll say that I really liked the movie. I just agree with your views on like the context of it. You know what I mean?
That's respectable.
Like I had a good time. You know?
Yeah. And so the first scene is very, very gripping. It takes you right in, and you are ready for something to happen. Spoiler here. This is a personal opinion, so don't worry if you feel differently. That was the first 5 to 8 minutes of the movie were the scariest and arguably the only horror parts of the entire film.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
Because after that, the whole movie relied on jump scares and making you afraid of the scenario, as opposed to being visually nervous.
Yeah. It was a lot of like sort of like haphazardly thrown together suspense attempts. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It didn't. It was like, oh, this is the beginning of a maybe suspenseful thing, and then it just was dashed away in cutscene.
My first initial comment on the movie that made me skeptical to continue actually was the boy was possessed. Okay, so there's a little kid who is possessed.
David Glatzel.
Yeah, he is possessed by I don't know. They never say. They're just assuming he's possessed. So we're working with this, and the kid. There are little to no physical changes to this possessed individual. It's all in the eyes. The lower part of the eyelid is darkened, and the eyes are kind of glazed over and spooky looking.
The boy just needs some sleep, yeah.
And this made me very upset because I think if we rewind back to the original Conjuring, where Lorraine gets possessed in the basement and they show her, it was absolutely horrifying.
No, yeah.
That, to me, the visuals in that one rivaled The Exorcist, of just that image of that face is something that you don't want to see. Like, you don't even want to think about it.
No, yeah.
And we did not get that at all in this movie.
So just based on that, I'm going to make a prediction. Like, do you think that you not liking this movie was based on the direction of it? Like the new director and how he didn't really... I mean, he made his own thing, and that's cool. Like, good for him. But are you disappointed in, like, the lack of canon throughout, like, visuals and what these things should look like? Or is it, like, how much of it was shown?
Partially. That definitely did not help the cause.
Yeah.
I think it's something that I can look over because I am a fan of... If the movie has a good story, that's really what's important to me.
Yeah. I thought it was a pretty good story.
The one thing I will say, and we kind of go into this a little bit more in depth as we talk about it, but the movie did not have a paranormal investigation route. It was more of an actual court case investigation.
Yeah.
And to me, that's where the line That's where I drew the line, because the Warrens, they were not lawyers, they were not police officers, and they were not detectives.
Oh, yeah.
They were paranormal investigators, and she was a medium. And in this movie, they give her extra power, almost. She has, like, psychic ability.
Like, she transported 2 moments of crimes occurring and then was in, like, the body of the person committing them.
Yeah.
Running through, like, the present time as if she was them.
Yeah, that happened, and then there was actually, the driving force behind this movie, I'll just say this out loud, there was a curse placed on the family, and they were followed by this object. And the point of the film was that they were trying to figure out where this object had come from and who had put the energy into it.
Yeah, like a satanic, well, it wasn't a sigil, it was a satanic, like,
memorabilia.
memorabilia,
like
maybe.
a tchotchke.
Oh, God, I'm trying to think of the word.
Like a token or a totem or something.
Yeah, probably a totem is the closest word. Yeah, just go on, I'll think of it.
Yeah, and I did not like it because the individual in question was a woman, and she was the one who placed the curse, and she was a human being in the world. And Lorraine Warren was able to visually connect to her, a living being. And that is not what mediums are capable of doing.
Yeah, that's some, like, godly shit.
That is above the ability of a psychic.
Yeah.
To connect to a living being. I can look past the historical crime, and she's there and she kind of embodies that crime. But I cannot look past the fact that she could see into the present. And
it's like, I can see through your eye.
And, yeah, like, locate where things are going on in the world. I did not like that.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. Dude, bringing it back to the, like, trial aspect of all this, like, I know that, like, Ed and Lorraine Warren were talking to the lawyer of the guy who was being tried. And he was like, we have to say, like, just because he's not possessed now doesn't mean he wasn't possessed when he did this. So, like, we have to say he's innocent on grounds of demonic possession. She's like, no one's going to fucking take you seriously. And this is kind of like, it was cool, but also it was a missed opportunity. So he was like, how about you come over to our house? I'll introduce you to Annabelle. And maybe you'll like change your tune. But then it just cuts to her in the courtroom, just like, we're going to say he's not guilty because of demonic possession. But they just completely, like, missed the opportunity to show them introducing the lawyer to Annabelle. And, like, that could maybe have made for some spooky shit that was actually scary.
I'm glad you said that, because like, I felt the same way.
Yeah. I was like, that's kind of funny. It's like a little nod to the other movies. Like, everyone knows that now, but that totally could have been in there, and it would have been cool.
No, and it would have kind of humanized the lawyer, because...
Yeah. She didn't even look scared in the courtroom. She was like, I just feel ridiculous saying this, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's like, I wanted more explanation as to why she changed her mind. Like, why... If you're going to make this an investigative movie, what did they do to sway that lawyer to do something so crazy?
Yeah, because even in the scene before it cuts to her saying that they were going to, like, say he was innocent due to that, she was like, yeah, all right, this has never been introduced in trials or anything. And they're just like, no, it has been in England. And she was like, let me rephrase that. It has never been done successfully.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was just like, all right, well, something pretty substantial must have happened to that lawyer and Annabelle.
Now we can move into Arnie Johnson and the actual portrayal of that.
Yeah.
They picked the right actor, I think. Personally, I think he looked good.
Like, he was a handsome guy. Yeah.
He looked like what I would expect Arnie Johnson to look like.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But they never explained anything. They lived in a dog kennel upstairs.
Yeah.
And he just murdered the guy that they worked for because he thought
Bruno.
he was the devil.
Dude, that guy was badass. He only lived for like 5 minutes of the movie.
Uh-huh.
But that guy was a party animal. He was like, you gotta fix my stereo. And he does it. And he's like, you have to drink with me now. Let's dance.
With me.
Let's dance. Everyone dance.
It's like that scene in Twin Peaks where he's like, dance with me.
He's just crying, like spinning with picture of his dead daughter.
But yeah, so they never really characterized that. They really just kind of threw you into it. There was that
Yeah.
scene where the box of cereal falls, and you're thinking perhaps, this is the haunting that he's seeing.
Yeah.
It was a mouse, so it wasn't even a
No,
ghost.
it was a rat. Grant, way scarier, thicker tails on those bitches.
My mistake, but
Yeah.
still, it's the same thing.
No, yeah, you're right. I don't know.
What were your thoughts on that? Them not only where they lived, but kind of how they handled that scene. The idea of building up to him killing him.
I don't know. Like, it was kind of interesting. Like, all right, the first problem I had, the first thing that immediately happened, because after the opening scene with the actual the crazy house, and they're in the Glatzel house, and he's like, "Take me instead," and then Ed. Oh, we didn't mention this. Ed has a fucking heart attack. That's funny.
Yeah.
But right after that, after he was like, "Take me," and then everything stopped. They just go back to normal, happy-go-lucky, 1950s style life.
Yeah.
They're just
they do.
everything's great. Maybe we'll get married. And, they're just so happy. And they're like, now that he's out of the woods, maybe we'll travel and do amazing things. They just completely forgot about it. No concern for, what might
Yeah, that you quite
come to
literally
happen
made a
after that.
deal with the devil, and they were just like, he left. It's gone.
But then, yeah, he sees that, cereal fall, and then he finds some, hole in the wall, and he's looking through it, and nothing happens. But then he turns around, and, that human being that they're trying to figure out who's leaving all the fucking satanic... God, I want to think of the right word. I'm going to think of it.
I guess. I don't know.
No, that's not even it. I have to think of it before the end of the episode. And then she's just there immediately, and then disappears, and then he kills Bruno after fixing his music system. So it all just kind of it just all happens at once.
It does.
It's weird, but
it's jump scary.
It gives the the impression that a lot of time has gone by when I don't think anything has. So I feel like they just jumped the gun on being comfortable with all of it.
Yeah, because then a couple scenes later they go back to the family and how they moved, and the kid in the beginning that was possessed is still the same age. It's the same kid.
Yeah.
There is no shift at all in any of the dynamic of the family's age, but they acted as if there were.
Yeah.
And there's a ghost here. Oh, nope, it's just Mitch.
Mitch, the ghost.
The door opened, and we thought perhaps it was a ghost, but alas, it was not.
It was Annabelle and the lawyer.
But I will say they added, they went really heavy on the jump scares in this one. That is what the approach was.
Yeah.
The scene, I will say, it made me jump when he was kind of laying there and the thing ran towards him. And then they started stabbing it.
Yeah, I could see that.
That was it. It made you jump. You could not jump, even if you knew it was coming.
No, it was a cheap shot.
But that does not excuse, to me, the film, because that is what Paranormal Activity did. That they were the jump scare people, and
that was just really more impressive because of how small the budget was for those movies.
Well, yeah, it's
true.
The Conjuring was. It always had some jump scares, but it was actually an eerie feel to the scene, you know? So I feel that they copped out on that extremely. Extremely.
I mean, for a horror film, I know you said you didn't really like it, but I feel like what made it good for me was, the interesting storyline.
Yeah.
They had the whole, they had that pastor who would, he was studying the satanic cult and everything before. That was played by John Noble, and he was in Lord of the Rings. I think he was one of the kings or whatever.
Yeah, the Order of the Black Ram, which I think was mentioned in one of the Annabelle movies. I think it was the one we saw.
Is that the one where that woman who owned the bookstore was read this?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that was also the Order of the Black Ram. And I mean, it was interesting to me, but first and foremost, they paint this image that every one of these people are Satanists. And to me, that's just not true.
Wait, every one of which people?
Anybody that is interested in this form of, the spirit world. anybody that Ed and Lorraine Warren have to go up against, they were always dealing with
No,
Satanists.
yeah, and like we said before, that was kind of their bag. Like, just like anything that happens that's paranormal, they're just going to label it as demonic, so they can say that they have some, like, there's some believability to anything they do.
Right. And I personally do not subscribe to that only because anybody that knows anything about the history of some of these organizations and these things, there certainly were people that were Satanists or worshiped the devil, Luciferians of that nature.
Yeah, there still are.
But that's not always the case, you know?
No, you could just be reading a book. You know?
I mean, yeah.
I'm sure. Like, I mean, we're not Satanists, are we? I mean, are you Satanist? I've never asked.
No.
Yeah, but I don't think I am either.
I was interested in
I
it.
do think that you should just do whatever you want as long as it doesn't involve anyone else in the ramifications. But
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're not harming someone else, do whatever the fuck you
I
want.
am more than okay with the Levian Satanism. As far as like Luciferianism and like people that actually worship the devil, like those Satanists, I mean, to each his own, I guess. But the Warrens are obviously very against that because it's the opposite of their belief system, and for some reason, their belief system is always right to them. I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's all these demons. Yeah.
I don't subscribe to that rule. So let's get back into it. We could talk about the investigation they did.
Yeah, I mean, like the guy who took on whatever demon it was, like Arnie Johnson, he was just like in a mental institution waiting for his trial, and he was kind of breaking down a little bit. And apparently, like the kid and his like wife to be, who was like the kid's sister, came and visited him, and him and the kid like related on how it felt. He's like, "You're just cold all the time, and they're just telling you to kill yourself." It's like, all right,
yeah,
well,
okay.
it's a psych ward for you, I guess. You know, I don't know. That part kind of seemed a bit heavy-handed.
And what I found this to be super frustrating as well. The Warrens are trying to gather information that could help Arnie in his case, right? And they finally reach out to a police department that has seen similar things, and they're trying to get that information, right? And you think, in this situation, yes, they would be able to help. They'd offer some insight or what they had to deal with. But no, the cop actually, in a way, blackmails them and says, well, you help us first.
Yeah.
You don't get to wait. You help us.
It's like, I brought you in here to help me.
And
then Lorraine just like takes the reins. She's like, "Yeah, I'll show you exactly where you need to go and exactly what happened." It's like,
right?
Jesus.
That doesn't make sense to me. I don't get that.
And then they're like trying to find this girl's like body or something, and she does that thing I mentioned earlier where she like becomes that person in the past and then runs through the forest and shit.
Yeah, then like
and
almost falls into the ravine.
It almost falls in the ravine, but she gets like. That was another thing that was kind of weird. She gets like grabbed by a hand and pulled into the ravine, but that's never explained.
They don't explain
but
that.
But also, like they're like at the end when they're just like, "We found a body. If it hadn't been for you, we wouldn't have done it because we already did it 4 times." Like what about that time made it
right?
So they found it. Like what? They had already did it 4 times. Are you shitting me?
So she got really lucky. Essentially, that's what I got.
Yeah.
And I did not care for the way they handled that investigation. And then after that, they kind of just like didn't do anything else. The Warrens just like had the information, and it still took an hour to get it.
Yeah, nothing really happened after that regarding the case, really. At least in the well, they did kind of sum it up in just those little paragraphs that like, this happened after the movie happened. This also happened after that. It's like, you know, those
they just gave you
those
like
little paragraphs
sentence.
you have to read. And it's like, you should maybe put that in the movie.
I hate movies that make you read because to me, I get it. You know, in some instances, you know, you have to get some background.
Yeah. I am a fan of subtitles, though, but that's a different, that's a different thing.
No, yeah, I'm a subtitle guy. I have to have the subtitles on because it not only is it easier for me to understand, but I feel as if I'm not just sitting watching TV. I feel like my brain's doing a little bit more work,
Yeah.
and I feel better about myself when I just like watch something with
You're like,
subtitles.
good for you, Grant. You're reading a book that is this movie.
No, exactly. And so the actual investigation into the case, I'm not gonna lie, they seemed to rush it for the purposes of the movie, and it made sense. It served its purpose. It was there
Yeah.
for a reason, and they followed suit. But I feel that it was drawn to. They got to a conclusion way too quickly. And the funniest thing is, anyone they encountered and kind of talked about the situation with that ended up believing them, they all said, uh, pretty much they were like, well, his fate lies in your hands. And what they forget to mention is that they didn't win. They did not win the case.
Yeah, the movie ends with what was his name? Arnie? Arnie John just looking back at the Warrens before the judge says if he was guilty or not guilty, and they just didn't put the verdict in.
Yeah.
It just ends, and then that's when the paragraphs start showing up.
And yeah, they really just kind of let you know they're like, and the Warrens failed at their job, so this whole movie was a waste of time. And I mean,
now they're dead.
let's face it. Let's get real here for a minute, okay? Outside of the movie, there are people out there that suffer from a variation of mental illnesses, okay? Schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, depression, things like this. When to extremes can cause people to do things that Arnie Johnson did.
Yeah, hallucinate, be paranoid about said hallucinations.
Yeah.
You know?
And never once was that even brought up as a potential factor.
Well, that's scary in kind of the complete polar way of what the movie was
It's
trying
like we
to
can
go for.
explain this one
It's
sort
like
of.
maybe we could just make it super real and mental illness is crazy. It sucks.
And to me, I think it's obviously, yeah, you're not going to win a court case by saying, well, the devil made me do it. Like, what do you think that worked if Bill Cosby was on trial? Like, no, that's not going to fly. It doesn't matter. You did it. Someone made you do it, but you did it,
Yeah.
And the fact that the Warrens lose was the best part of that movie for me.
And that it ended and that they both coincided.
And here's my thing.
I don't know. I feel like we're being real hard on the movie. Like, it was a good time, like I said, and it was, I don't know, different director and all that stuff.
See, I disagree.
I mean, we're being
And
hard on it. I'm not saying
I
it's
gotta
not
say this, Jake,
worthy of saying.
I've never encountered a movie where I've heard you not like it or say it was bad.
What about
you're a very open and kind person,
and
and you're very open to even things that are bad. You're very
oh yeah, you
receptive.
gotta have those things for contrast.
And
But no, dude,
I'm a lot
fucking
more negative when it comes to this. for
Shark
sure.
Exorcist was a piece of flaming dog shit.
Well, yeah, that we can agree on for sure.
Okay.
That we can agree on.
That's the only example I could think of, so I guess you're right.
I
But
will say this though. The way the movie ended was they have their final confrontation with this lady, right?
the
lady
occultist is what she's credited as.
Oh, really? Okay,
the
so
occultist.
we'll just call her that, the occultist. The part that pissed me off, I was literally screaming at the television when this happened, and
oh God.
I woke up the dog, and the dog was freaking out. I was
Navi.
told on many. I was just like, it's just a movie. Just calm down.
You're
like, who
waking the
cares?
neighbors. The entire neighborhood is lighting up.
And we were actually babysitting another dog, so there were two dogs that were awake and howling.
Oh my God.
It was not a great scenario because I was flaming. I
didn't
angry.
realize you were so impassioned about this movie being not to what you wanted it to be.
No. This specifically was the part I hated. Okay. Because they get to the occultist and they have this little bit of a tuffle. I guess I'd call it a tuffle. I don't know if that's a real word.
Yeah, there was a sledgehammer involved, hallucination, all that stuff.
And then she gets possessed by the devil and is killed. Not only do the Warrens not try to help her, therefore proving my point that they do not care about anybody that's not a Christian.
Oh, well, she's just a Satanist.
But how did they explain that to the cops? There was a dead body. Literally, the same thing that Arnie Johnson was just involved in. And they never were questioned by police. Like, you two are the only people here, and there's a dead body here. You guys are going to jail.
Yeah.
And it was
Well,
just
you know,
like, no, well, that was the devil. And the TV people saw it, so everybody knows we didn't do it. It's the devil.
Well, you know what was an interesting, maybe on purpose choice is that when they like crawl out of wherever they were, like those little like tunnels underneath the house where they were.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like on top of a hill overlooking the house, and that's when the cops show up, and they don't go up to the hill. They don't seem to see the Warrens up there. They go right into the house.
So the Warrens are
So maybe
murderers.
they just got away with the crime.
The Warrens are on the lam. Like, they are quite literally murderers.
But then they're just in court watching their work all be for nothing in the next scene. So I don't know.
I think that it was that to me was bad writing for sure. And again, kind of like I said in the beginning of this, I don't necessarily think it was a bad movie. It had its moments. It was an interesting story. It was pretty different than the other ones.
Yeah.
I just personally did not think it stood up to any of the other Conjuring films.
No,
those,
when it's in comparison to the other Conjuring films, this was the worst.
though the other two were both scary, informative, eerie, had funny moments, and told you a story pretty much about a family that was suffering like the worst trauma you could have.
Yeah.
And kind of coping with that and how to deal with that and how to get help for it. In this, they did none of that. They never helped that family.
Yeah. The only like historically accurate thing that they like chose to put in there, but it was like kind of for no reason, was how Ed and Lorraine like met.
Yeah.
Like that like storyline is just like, oh yeah, we were going out to the movies. He was an usher, and then we just dated.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like, yep, you got that right, but everything else is kind of just, yeah.
And the last thing that I really want to point out about this movie, if you could tell, we didn't spend a lot of time on the middle parts of the movie because those are kind of the...
Simply the middle. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That's
there,
just a means to an end.
It's there to get you to the credits. That's the point of that part. But following in the same footsteps as the previous Conjuring films, they play some of the original recordings of Ed and Lorraine Warren and their investigation into the family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the internet is abuzz about these right now. The people that are actually watching this movie, they are openly admitting that that was the scariest part of the movie, and they were so scared they couldn't sleep and how terrifying it was and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't think that they had seen the first two.
Either that, or like maybe people are just like, oh, this is like the scary movie we've been wanting for this past like year and a half when we've been locked up in the house. Like, we want a new film that's also familiar in that, you know, it like played those tapes at the end like the other Conjurings did. And now they have it back and they're like just fully into it, very like enthusiastic, like this is exactly what we needed. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
But they're just kind of lying to themselves.
Now
or maybe they're telling the truth. Who knows?
We mentioned this on the Patreon. The Einfield case. I think those are some of the scariest recordings out there.
Yeah, definitely.
That was actually the only time in the history of the show that we have put anything in that wasn't our intro, one of our ads, or simply just our voices.
Yeah, I think we just placed the soundbite and we were like, "Did you hear that?" At the end of it. But yeah, we should do that more often, honestly.
I believe we played it at the beginning and then kind of in the middle.
Yeah, some of the noises that the little girl was making.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone has their opinion. So I'm not here to tell you that, you know, you can't have your opinion or you can't feel this way. But you got to realize that on a scale, this movie offered a lot less in the historically scary department than the other films.
Yes.
It really was more of a whodunit sort of solving the crime, trying to pin it on the devil case, than it was actually a investigation, I guess you would say, into the paranormal.
Yeah. Well, something going back to the devil in that last scene where the occultist dies.
Uh-huh.
Did we mention that it's her, and then another her comes that we're supposed to believe is possessed by the devil and kills her. So she's killed by a Satanist doppelganger of herself, and then they both just atomize, right? Or one of them just disappears, the other one's dead. But
Yeah, they sort of, how Voldemort dies, they just sort of turn into nothing. They just disappear.
just dust.
I
I don't know. I thought that was weird. A weird choice. It's like, yeah, this chick killed herself, but it was a separate entity who was also her, and now they're both dead.
Yeah, and now they're both dead.
And now they're gone.
But it's time for us to give our ratings, as we do with any movie we review or talk about.
You want me to give the IMDb rating just
Yeah, you could give it to us as a
beforehand?
baseline here.
6.5.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I am going to measure this on the same scale I would on the other Conjuring films. So that would be horror movies with a side of kind of mainstream popularity, kind of pop movies, you know?
Pop movies.
That's not really a thing, but I think it should be.
I definitely know what you mean. The Conjuring films are like the Coca-Cola of, like, fucking horror films.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
They are the new horror movie. Like, that's what it is now.
Yeah.
It's The Conjuring. I would say, I would give this movie a 4.5. 4.5 out of 10. They lost a lot of stars simply because the writing was not very good to me. The music was terrible, I thought. I didn't think it added anything to the movie.
It was all right. It was. You're right. You're right. I am too giving with these movies.
You are.
But
You're
I
far
did.
too giving.
I will say that when music came on, I was like, "Oh, it's this song," and then every other time, I didn't even notice it was there. So maybe that just goes to
Right,
show
like
it's,
it didn't.
It's the elevator music of soundtracks.
It did not create any atmosphere. It sort of just kind of was there because you have to have music in these movies. So we got the music and the story writing. That knocks off a solid 5 points for me. Then the other half a star that it lost was simply because I did not think that they I don't think they presented this case well at all.
No.
I don't think that in the real investigation into this case, I'm pretty certain that about 80% of these things did not happen. So
There you go.
it was very exaggerated simply for the fact that they wanted to make a third movie. And maybe it was rushed. I don't know. Maybe I don't know how the production on these movies are working right now. Perhaps it was, written very hastily, or it was written during the pandemic in this sort of mindset of like, well, any form of entertainment that's new will be good, so let's just make it,
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but that knocks off that final half a star for me. They did earn some stars because, first and foremost, I love the series. I think it's a good film series.
Entertainment.
I love the actors. I think they're really good. Patrick Wilson, and her name is Vera something.
Yeah, Vera.
I'm not sure what her
Vera
last...
Farmiga.
Farmiga. They are excellent together, I think. They really play well with each other, and they portray emotion well.
They portray those people who are full of shit very well.
Now, they don't look like the Warrens in any way.
No, they look beautiful compared to the Warrens.
He looks like Ed Warren dropped about 110 pounds and about 15 years.
Yeah, in the movie, when you see him have a heart attack, you're like, what? But then you see a picture of the real Ed Warren at that time, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm surprised it didn't happen before.
Ghost didn't give him a heart attack. It was the 5 sticks of butter a week he eats.
Yeah, probably.
The actors are good. I have no complaints on that. There's really no bad acting. I guess some of the callbacks to the previous films, even just like the Annabelle thing.
Yeah, the mention of Annabelle, all that
Those
stuff.
are good little Easter eggs for everybody. And some of the things were, whether you believe them or not, were historically accurate, at least things that had occurred in real life.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't really think that this movie deserves more than that to me.
I'm gonna give it a 6. Just point 0.5 below IMDb. Because you know what, I and don't be upset because the other the other fucking Conjuring movies definitely get a 7 or more
Mm-hmm.
at their worst. But I don't know, man. Like I said, and like you said, I tend to just like shit. So
Yeah, you do.
you know, it's not that bad, and it didn't make me angry. It made me feel like it maybe shouldn't have been labeled as such, like you know, in the Conjuring universe.
Right.
But like I mean, like yeah, like I said, you texted me that, and I was like, you're completely right.
And
But I liked it, so 6. It gets a 6.
and I mean, yeah, that's the fun thing about this is we can have opinions. You know, it's not like it's gonna make a difference. Obviously, for any of you out there that have seen the movie, you know, you probably are disagreeing with a lot of what we're saying. And that is more than okay. That's what the world's all about to
Yeah,
me.
this whole show is pretty much just like, you know what? Whatever you think, good for you.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You know, you go ahead.
But yeah, I'm not saying don't see it. If you've seen the first two, it's definitely worth the time.
It's worth it, and it's like what, an hour and 50 minutes, so it's like a trek, but
yeah, it's
good.
It's a longer movie for sure.
It's a good way to, you know, project yourself into the night.
I really hope that there is another one, and I hope it is, even if it's done in the same style, I would like a more interesting case because
Like which case that they haven't covered yet from the Warrens, because you know the Warrens aren't leaving this franchise. I mean, they're dead, but like the characters of the Warrens, you know.
I would love a revisit of Amityville because I never liked the Amityville horror movies.
But
Go ahead.
weren't there like movies with the Warrens and Amityville in it?
As far, I mean, I think
I'm pretty
was
sure
that
there
the
were just
second one. It started there. That was like the
yeah,
intro.
yeah, okay, no, yeah, you're right. That's what I'm thinking of. A whole movie on that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Amityville would be really good. I don't know the names, but there was that one case I read where there was a house and it would literally rain rocks inside of the house.
What the fuck?
And I think
Oh
that
my
would be
God.
beyond interesting.
We have to cover that shit.
I really like that.
You're coughing up a whole meal in there.
I am. I don't know what it is. I'm just dying or something.
Something's happening. I mean, we're all dying.
It's because I talked bad about the Warrens, and now they're making me
Yeah.
sick.
Now the recently dead Lorraine Warren is like, I'll show you to speak ill of my hubby.
Most importantly, though, Lorraine Warren she was a medium, okay? She had the ability or the inclination to speak
It's a
and
light transmedium.
feel things from the other side, if you believe in that, okay? That in no way means that she possesses psychic abilities or is able to mentally, visually project things that are happening across town in her own head.
Yeah.
And it does not give her the ability to take over somebody else's body, okay?
Dude, one scene that we didn't talk about that I thought was like kind of hilarious was when they're in the morgue and
Yeah.
she's like touching that
Yeah.
chick's hand.
And that
She's
fat
like,
guy.
there's a connection, but like, yeah, the occultist is like, she's in the eyes of the occultist. Then the occultist is like, I know you're here, and then she uses some sort of power to like make some other guy in the morgue like come alive, and it's just this like 600-pound dude just like sprinting around.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and again, these are not things that mediums are capable of doing. If you are to believe in this, a medium and a psychic
If
are
you're to believe in this, don't.
they can cross over, but they are two separate things. Like there are certain things that they are both, particularly capable of doing. And if you're a psychic, you might be a medium, but if you're a medium, that does not mean you're a psychic.
Yeah, it's a fingers thumbs thing.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
And
jacuzzi, hot tub.
I think a
all these
lot
things.
of that kind of stuck in my head throughout the movie. And again, I do get a little sick of the way Ed protects Lorraine because he can't do anything.
He basically is just like, come on, you got to get out of there.
Yeah, like,
stop it.
he is-
Like, he doesn't do anything though.
He is not the one that possesses any abilities. He is simply there to just be there with his wife and ride her coattails.
Yeah. Dude, one of my favorite things in any of the Conjuring movies that was just complete and utter bullshit was, I think it was the Einfield one, where he's just in the house, like, playing guitar for them and shit, and, like,
Yeah, singing
being
Elvis.
a father figure for, like, the entire family. But in reality, they just showed up one day, like, unwanted, and tried to force their way in,
Yeah,
and
like,
they just were turned
investigators.
away immediately.
I mean, that's the thing with the Warrens, is they're very polarizing, and I think these movies are bad for them, or not for them, but for my opinion of them, because I understand that not everyone that is interested in these movies is going to take the time to do as much in-depth research as, every other person that does do things like that. And you get this image of the Warrens as these saviors, when in reality, they really were nothing more than opportunists. Like, that's all they were.
And that isn't to say that, like, every case that they dealt with wasn't real.
Oh,
Like,
no,
not at all.
exactly.
But they were opportunists within the reality of, like, weird shit happening. But they, like, pigeonholed certain things to the point where it just made everything ridiculous and, like,
Right.
not believable. Like, they lied so much that everything else around it seems not real.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just their presence. It's like, yeah, the weird shit can happen, and then other people can ruin it for you. So be careful of people like the Warrens.
Yeah. So definitely give it a check if you want to continue the series, if you need some good Conjuring injection into your life.
Yeah, I think it's in theaters, right?
Yeah, it's in theaters.
Theaters
It's on
and HBO.
HBO Max for another couple of weeks. So definitely check that out. You won't be disappointed.
But
Even
you won't
me,
be overjoyed.
it might sound like I was disappointed. I wasn't really
You
disappointed.
said you hated it.
I was let down. Okay.
All right.
But I had high expectations because the first movie was very good.
Yeah.
The second one, to me, took it up a notch and was even better. And then the third one, it in comparison, fell flat
Yeah,
to me.
just like new director, new storyline, new plot,
New nothing.
new everything because we made a lot of it up.
Yeah, so that's The Conjuring. That is the first actual... This is the first time we've ever done an episode on one
Just
specific
one
film.
movie, yeah. Pretty feels good, man. Yeah.
But with all that being said, that's
I think
effectively
that's the
our
episode, yeah, because we are starting a cult that's great. I'm Jake. Mitch came in, he was a ghost, and he's here to say bananas.
Yeah, he
But,
is. He does it all the time.
He does. Or that he likes being purple. It's whichever one he feels that day.
Yeah, however he's feeling.
You
that
guys
day.
know the show. But anyway, follow us on all the shit. We got Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I think is what I usually say. And then YouTube, we got that. You got to subscribe there. Subscribe everywhere you listen. And there's a link below for the Patreon. Come on there. We got new shows every Thursday, every other Thursday now.
Yeah, and
we just posted one yesterday.
We did a very weird episode yesterday, and we covered a real life
just talked
conspiracy.
I'm not even going to give
Yeah,
it away.
you're gonna have
It
to
has nothing
figure it
to
out.
do with like the show, really.
It's
but
nothing
we talk
scary,
about it for like
but
40
it's
minutes.
a cover up that is happening in real life. That's not bad.
Panning out right now.
It's really just like funny, but it's happening. So donate
It
us some
involves
money,
balls.
and you are more than welcome to check out that episode. You can have it. But we love you guys. We will be back on next Friday
Yes.
with a brand new episode for you guys to enjoy.
With
and
some sort of cool topic we'll decide before then.
I hope you guys have a good weekend and a good week and enjoy your lives.
Do it.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bananas.